Hello Superfiles. So today we are going to start the second part of the ecological concepts series. Today we are going to learn about concepts of niche, homeostasis, carrying capacity and limiting factor. We will start off with the concept of niche. So niche is basically the addition of all the ecological requisites and activities of a species. In ecology, a describes how an organism responds to the distribution of resources and how it alters those same factors. So Eugene Odum was a famous American biologist. He defined niche as the position of an organism within its community and ecosystem results from organism structural adaptations, physiological responses, and specific behavior. So physiological responses include abiotic factors of moisture, pH, soil, temperature, pressure, etc. Then there is another sub concept in niche which is named as competitive exclusion principle. It states that two species can't coexist if they occupy exactly the same niche. That is, if the two species are competing for identical resources, they can't coexist. Those two species whose niches overlap evolved by natural selection to have more distinct niches, which is known as resource partitioning. Then there are three types of niche. First is spatial niche. It is the microhabitat that function as the ultimate distributional unit within which each species is held by structural and instinctive limitations. Then second is known as trophic niche. It is the fundamental status or the position of an organism in the community. And the third is the n-dimensional hypervolume niche. It is the multidimensional space where n is the dimensions that form a niche where individuals of a species grow and reproduce. Moving on, a distinction of niches can be done as fundamental niche and realized niche. The graph shows a hypothetical situation where a species distribution is controlled by temperature and moisture. The green area describes the actual combinations of these two variables that the species utilize in its habitat. This realized niche is the subset of the fundamental niche. Then what is the importance of niches? Ecologists use the niche concept to understand how communities relate to trait evolution, environmental conditions, fitness, and predator-prey interactions. Niches allow species to exist in their environment, and under right circumstances, the species will thrive and play a unique role. Without the ecological niches, there would be less biodiversity and the ecosystem would not be in balance. Then the second concept is known as homeostasis. It is a self-regulating process by which biological systems tend to maintain stability while adjusting to conditions that are optimal for survival. In ecosystem, it's a product of the combination of biodiversity and large number of ecological interactions that occur between the species. If homeostasis is successful, then the life continues. Otherwise, a disaster can happen. Then what are the factors that affect homeostasis of the organisms? Those are pH level, salinity, temperature, climate, organism populations, and nutrient cycles. Nutrient cycles include carbon cycle, oxygen cycle, hydrogen cycle, nitrogen cycle, etc. Now we will see the example. Changes in temperature of ocean waters has led to massive death of algae and other microscopic organisms, which has further led to coral reef bleaching. This has affected the homeostasis and has drastically affected the entire coral reef ecosystem. All living beings in the ecosystem must not engage in activities that disrupt the prevailing biochemical cycles and other abiotic factors which will further lead to an imbalance in the homeostasis, that is, in the state of an ecosystem. Now we will see what is the importance of homeostasis. It is important to live free and independent life and to maintain an ecosystem stability. Homeostatic processes unfold constantly and automatically, and if they fail, the ecosystem balance is greatly disturbed. Resource constraints are important to stabilize overall consumption and to stabilize total abundance, standing biomass and biomass production. Then how is homeostasis maintained? Individuals of a species living in an ecosystem adjust their behavior in response to negative feedback mechanism. Example, in summer, we shed a layer of clothing, move into the shed or drink a cold glass of water. Some species maintain the internal environment of their body despite the external conditions. Example, us human beings. Other species allow the internal environment to vary. This is seen in the lower animals. Now we will have a look on the concept of carrying capacity. Carrying capacity is the number of organisms that an ecosystem can sustainably support. Carrying capacity can be represented by a logistic S-shaped curve, also known as sigmoid curve. This curve is a measure of population versus time. Organisms show slow growth at the initial stages while it grows exponentially with the increase in time and number of population increases. Carrying capacity is represented by logistic S-shaped curve, also known as sigmoid curve. It takes into measures the factors of population versus time. There is slow growth at the initial time period, while it exponentially grows over a specific time span until it reaches stable equilibrium with the environment. So carrying capacity of an ecosystem is when the organisms in that ecosystem reach the stable equilibrium with the environment. The influences of environment on the carrying capacity are the ability to regenerate the food, water, atmosphere, disease, competition, prey-predator interaction, resource use, and the number of populations. Ecosystems cannot exceed their carrying capacity for a long period of time. When it exceeds, the species will deplete its source of food, water, and other necessities. As the environment is degraded, carrying capacity shrinks and is no longer able to support who formerly lived in the area on a sustainable basis. Population control, biodiversity conservation, agricultural management, urban planning, and food security. What needs to be done to maintain the carrying capacity? Urban planning should include a study on carrying capacity of the city and the adjoining region. Awareness creation among the people to reduce the wastage and to protect our natural forests. Now we will look at the last concept known as limiting factor. Limiting factor is any factor that tends to slow down the rate of metabolism or the potential growth in an ecosystem. Liebig's law of the minimum with respect to limiting factor states that the growth is controlled not by the total amount of resources available but by the resource which is found in the least quantity. Limiting factors may be physical or biological. Biotic limiting factors include food, suitable mates for reproduction, and competition for resources, while abiotic limiting factors include space, temperature, altitude, sunlight, etc. Limiting factor causes competition between organisms of a species and hold down population in an area by causing some organisms to seek better prospects elsewhere and others to stay and starve. Then there are four types of limiting factor. First is the single limitation. When only one factor with maximum demand limits the system is known as single limitation. Then the second is called as serial co-limitation. When one factor has no direct limiting effects on the ecosystem but must be present to increase the limitation of a second factor is known as serial co-limitation. Independent limitation is the third limiting factor. It occurs when two factors both having limiting effects on the ecosystem but they work through different mechanisms. And the last is known as a synergistic limitation. It occurs when both factors contribute to the same limitation mechanism but in different ways. That is all for today's video. Thank you for watching. Do subscribe to the channel for more videos related to environmental science. Thank you.